welcome to the Fantasy Foot Bros podcast, brought to you by the Shell Corporation, with your host and the scientist behind Nav, the 3-time winning owner of The Walking Dead, Nick Young, and the most jacked fantasy owner to ever play the game, given everything he's got, Tim Young. Now, let's get into some fantasy talk.
Tim, what are you doing?
I didn't know you were recording! Hello, and welcome in to episode 8 of the Fantasy Foot Bros podcast. Today we're talking about Timmy Deltroids! You didn't see anything, though. So, Adam decided to change his name after asking him to something.
Super disappointing.
Yeah, it was good for a little, that's funny. It's a picture of me as a baby. Kind of creepy, but, it made for a quick little chuckle. Poke fun at the bear who's been, putting at the end of every video him getting pooped on. So, it was funny. Kind of confusing now. It's going to be confusing throughout the year. He can do better. I think he can do better.
I don't want to see him do better. I just want to see him do something different. I don't like having two Timmys in there.
I agree. I mean, one Timmy is plenty. So, yeah, Adam, if you'd like to change it, we won't stop you. Or just go back to Adam. That's fine, too. But we're talking about your team today and how you sold out last year after a pretty good start to the season. Still extremely, extremely competitive. And then he said, hey, you know what? Those Thirsty Turtles, their team's stacked. You know what I'm going to do? In week 7, I'm going to trade him Patrick Mahomes and make this guy's team unstoppable.
Yep.
Give him the duo of Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, and Adam just said, you know what? If I can't win, he's going to, and, that's about it. So what do you think of his strategy last year?
Proceeded to complain the whole season that it was already over because the grr.
Yeah.
Grr.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much why you lost the championship game.
Well, I mean, Kamara's ridiculous 87 touchdown game in the fantasy championship didn't help.
But if you take that away,
right,
you're definitely winning.
Yeah.
So, sold out last year. It set him up pretty nicely, though, for this year. He has 9 picks in the first 5 rounds. So going into it, what do you think he should do with all those draft picks in the early rounds? What's your draft strategy to how to kind of separate them?
Well, I don't think the answer is quarterback. He seems to have a lot of those, and I think those are going to be mostly his keeper options.
You really think the quarterbacks are going to be is where he's strong? I mean, he has all those early round picks.
Strong, but
they're all.
He has the opportunity to use them as keepers and get by and be super strong at some other positions.
I mean, looking at the 3 quarterbacks between Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Daniel Jones, there's really Jalen Hurts is the only one that I can see as a viable starter for most of the season. And after that, I mean, Daniel Jones and Tua, they'll be okay here and there. But when you have all those early picks.
Tua looks fine in the preseason so far, and I think you're underestimating Tua. Yeah.
Well, it could be, but still, it's not something I want in my starting lineup.
Oh, I'd be fine with that.
When you have all these picks in the early round, and you have an opportunity to get Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson.
In the 11th, give me Tua. And then let me spend that pick on Ezekiel Elliott or Saquon Barkley or Tyreek Hill somewhere in the early.
I don't see why you would take a chance on Tua that he maybe is something when you have opportunity actually getting someone. I mean, unless you're looking at the long-term keeper value of Tua, getting him at an 11th round this year, 9th the following, assuming that he's a solid QB1. That's the only argument I would see for it, but I don't like Tua. I don't think he's going to be a successful NFL quarterback or with the offense.
Tua throws out, he has 100.3 on my nav score, and I feel like that's pretty accurate there. I think that he is a worthwhile keeper in the 11th round, and that he's a really solid QB2 for that super flex position. If not, his first QB. I'm totally fine with that. I think he'll be good. We disagree here. You're welcome, Adam.
So, one that I think we will agree on is Jalen Hurts as one of the keepers. Is that who you would go with
Not
over
necessarily.
Daniel Jones?
Well, yes, over Daniel Jones, yes.
Okay, so Tua out of the three quarterbacks, you're saying Tua is his best keeper out of those three?
Yes.
Just from
Which
about...
you may not agree with. He may feel that Jalen Hurts is. You may feel that Jalen Hurts is a better keeper than Tua.
Well, so are you looking at it from, I guess you're looking at it from a value standpoint, but you can't say that you think Tua is going to have a better season than Jalen Hurts, can you?
You could, yeah.
Well, you'd be wrong. Well, I forgot. Tua has Myles Gaskins
Yeah,
on
With Myles Gaskins, Miami's offense, they're going to be
the
great.
team.
You forgot about
It's
him.
always Myles.
Yeah,
It comes full
yeah.
circle to him all the time. Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts is the first keeper I would pick. Tua's, someone to consider, but he has all those picks. I mean, he could use one of his 9th picks, and I think he would still be there for him. So I think by that time, yeah, keep Jalen Hurts is where I would go. I think he has way higher of a ceiling than Tua does, in my opinion.
So Hurts is at 35 NAV score there. He would cost a 5th round pick to be able to keep, which is a real shame for him because he, as we know, he drafted Hurts and he held on to him for weeks and ended up dropping him for Antonio Brown, I think, or Josh Gordon, or both of them. I don't know, but it was a mistake probably.
He made a lot of questionable decisions.
He did. Didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, keeping Jalen Hurts, I know.
I had Jalen Hurts for a week, and then I tossed him back out there. But yeah, him picking Hurts back up when he did escalated his keeper cost to a 5th round, which was actually new this year. Previously, if you had signed a free agent after the keeper deadline, they were not eligible to be kept at all.
And I think if he's thrown back in the mix, I think he's getting drafted in the 3rd or 4th round, being a homer pick,
Right, yeah.
with a bunch of Eagles fans in there. I think that's where he would go, and getting him at the 5th, I think is an excellent value. Now, looking at another position, wide receiver on his team, his wide receivers look pretty stacked between Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, DK Metcalf, and Amari Cooper. There's only one in there that I really think is worth a keeper in DK Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
You could make an argument for Antonio Brown, but I don't think Mike Evans or Amari Cooper are even in the conversation. What are your thoughts on Antonio Brown and DK Metcalf? We'll start there.
So surprisingly, DK Metcalf cost a 4th round pick to keep. Adam's 4th rounder is the first pick of the 4th round. Antonio Brown is an 11th round keeper. And where he's being drafted right now is pushing their NAV scores to be neck and neck. So DK Metcalf is at 53.49, while Antonio Brown is at 49.03.
Well, I think you keep Metcalf in the 4th. I mean, I think that's a pretty...
I do, yeah. When they're that close, you just lean towards the more talented player. And he maybe ought to target a situation where he trades down from that 4th round pick and see if he can turn it into some extra value for himself.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
I made a trade with Ed and Jim to, back my keepers to the end of each round. That way...
While picking up extra value in another round.
Correct. Moving up in other rounds. Having 9 picks in the first 5 rounds, he may not even care about his later round picks. But that's what I would do too. I would try and get some more value, switching to the end of the 4th and keeping Metcalf. Now, looking at Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, and DK Metcalf, we'll kind of throw Antonio Brown out of the mix. 3 very high...
Before you do, let's talk about Antonio Brown real quick. Let's talk about AB. he's gathering some steam here, and with some good word out of training camp and preseason that he looks like the AB of old. Is that?
Well, he is old.
Well, right.
So that's the only thing he's got going for
Are
him.
you
I
buying
guess.
into that?
No, not at all. I mean, he'll have his games. I think he's a good player to roster that you can kind of throw in there every once in a while. But I'd be shocked if he had more than 5 touchdowns on the year, and if he ever has more than a 100-yard receiving game.
I'm buying into it a little bit. That's,
Are you?
Yeah, the completely illogical Tom Brady to AB love connection that they have. I don't know why Brady likes Antonio Brown so much, but he seems to.
There's just so many mouths to feed there, and
There are, yeah. He likes to spread the ball around.
And it's going to be so difficult to kind of figure out what wide receiver is going to shine, and that's the problem with Mike Evans too. That he's a top tier receiver, but it's hard to put him in that top tier because there's just no consistency that you can really rely on. He'll put up a goose egg because Godwin and Antonio Brown took all the targets that game, but then there's a chance that he puts up 3 touchdowns and the other 2 receivers don't see a target. I mean, they'll see a target, but you get what I'm saying. So Antonio Brown is someone that it's okay to have as a late round pick, but it's not someone that I would necessarily target in that Tampa Bay offense. I'm surprised you're buying into the hype. Usually you're too analytical to buy into hype.
Yeah, well, analytically, I like the value that he could potentially return from that late round pick. I would not draft him in the 8th, 9th, 10th, but 11, 12, that's, somebody that I would take a serious look at.
Well, going back to my other question about the other receivers, taking Antonio Brown out of the mix, because I don't think you can put him in the same category as Metcalf, Evans, and Cooper.
One day there was a time when he was above all those.
Okay, yeah. That's great.
But leave him behind.
We'll throw him in the mix. Which one of those 3 do you think offers the most value based on where they're being drafted? So Mike Evans around the 5th round.
No, I don't have to think. I put a score on it.
Well, not keeper value. So,
okay.
Not keeper value, where they're going to be drafted. So Mike Evans around the 5th, DK Metcalf, his is at the 4th, and then Amari Cooper at the 5th.
If you're saying that Metcalf is a 4th round,
so he's being capped at a 4th round. So so all in the same area, 2 5th round and a 4th. Which one do you think has the most value and best season?
You guys know by now. But we're supposed to wait till tomorrow. But we are going live in Canada. We heard the community.
I don't know what's happening right now.
So going back to the receivers, what do you think about the receivers and their value out of those 3 or 4?
I forget what the question was totally, but I feel like DK.
Okay, so still you think that DK, even though he's going around earlier than Evans and Cooper, is going to be more valuable throughout the year than the other 2?
Yes, and I think I'm not quite as down on the Bucs receiver situation as you are. I do think that Mike Evans is a bit underrated, and Brady loves him in the red zone, and that's where he's put up a good bit of work our last season. So I like touchdowns.
I'm not down on the Tampa Bay receivers.
No, you hate them. I don't know what's your problem.
I love all of them. I mean, I want a piece of all of them. I want a piece of Evans. I want a piece of Godwin. I want a piece of Brown, Gronk, all of them. But I just don't know what weeks I'm going to want that piece. That's the biggest. Having Godwin last year was a pain because some weeks he was good for me. Others, he was just a nuisance to have in the lineup. I'd rather have someone that's more consistent in the 5th round that, he may not have as high of a ceiling, but get me more consistent points because having that goose egg in there is extremely frustrating. I wouldn't say I'm down on him, but I agree that Metcalf is probably the best of those 3 for the value. And I think at the end of the day, between Evans and Cooper, I think Evans is going to have a better season than Amari Cooper will because I think CeeDee Lamb is going to be taking a lot of targets, and I think he's going to have a lingering issue. It seems like in preseason He's having some ligament issues and soft tissue injuries, and they seem to carry with the player when they get it in training camp and preseason. So, Amari Cooper, I'd probably avoid. I'd lean towards Evans. That's my breakdown of his receivers.
So about Daniel Jones, going back to him. We kind of skipped over him.
Well, there's nothing to talk about. He sucks.
Yeah.
He had a terrible interception in the preseason. There was nobody around. I mean, it looked like a punt.
His situation got better this year with supporting cast, right?
Yes.
Not on the offensive line, but...
Yes. Getting Barkley back and Galladay are going to make him
Right.
naturally slightly better.
Right. He turned the ball over a ton last year. Was pretty awful. I think we saw his absolute floor. There's no scenario where he repeats that. Probably. And
Well, you know what? I would love to see you have a team. Please draft Daniel Jones, Myles Gaskins, and Antonio Brown and start them all. And if you win a championship with those three, I'll eat my shoe. I don't know. It's best I got.
all right, well, I'm gonna grab Tua for that team as well.
Well, no. Now you've typed him up so much, Adam's going to keep him.
Yeah.
So he's going to be off the board, and you'll have to settle with Hurts or something.
Daniel Jones has a 12 on the NAV score for being kept in the 9th round. The end of the 9th round, 9-12 he has. So there's no real value in keeping him there. You say there's no real value in rostering him at all. I disagree. I think that he's going to have a bit of a surprising season.
All right, so let's just put this in hypothetical. All right.
So the Giants had the opportunity to take Justin Fields and instead traded back and said, no, we believe Daniel Jones is going to make us regret trading. No.
Is that a vote of confidence?
It is. It's a vote of confidence in Daniel Jones.
Okay. Hey, you know what?
How else do you read that?
That the Giants are a terrible organization who has an idiot head coach who's making players retire during training camp because he has no idea what he's doing?
Didn't say whether it was a good decision or not.
Well, no, you're saying it is because
No,
you're
I'm saying it's a confident decision in Daniel Jones.
which leads to you wanting to roster him, which
Yes.
means that
Because
you
even
think
if
it's
they're
a good
wrong,
decision.
they're confidently going to stick with him all year.
Okay, but let's just say you're sitting in the 8th round and Daniel Jones is still on the board with Justin Fields, with Trey Lance, we'll throw him in there, some rookies, Trevor Lawrence probably won't fall that far, but Sam Darnold, we'll say. Are you really going to take Daniel Jones over those guys who have a potential higher ceiling?
Sam Darnold hasn't shown more than Daniel Jones.
What, he's got more weapons than...
And who has more weapons this year now? Daniel Jones has more weapons. Again.
No, he doesn't.
No, not than Sam Darnold, but then Daniel Jones last year did.
It's debatable. So, well, you can roster him along with your other, fan favorites of Gaskins and Brown, and Tua. That's going to be an interesting roster. Hey, maybe you want to trade Adam for one of these and give Adam another first-round pick.
I'm good.
And that will certainly load up his team. Looking at his end-of-year ranking, I think he's going to finish first in the division. I think that he's going to end at 11-3 on the season. He's going to have a dominant year, and yeah, I think he's going to make a strong playoff push. What are your thoughts on his outlook?
Yeah, I don't think he'll grab first place. I think Jim will have first place in that division. But I do see him as a playoff team here, for sure.
Adam's team is going to be stacked with early round picks.
Adam has had a bad habit of, I'm not sure whether he loses interest or just, he loses it at some point. He's had strong teams before that he stops looking at, it seems like. And then he wakes up with 2-3 weeks before the playoffs and decides, hey, you know what, I'm going to do something again, I guess.
I think this is all these years that he's just been mocked, kicked, and really put to the bottom of the barrel of everyone thinking he's just a joke and
Who are you
complaining of the
saying this
league.
for? He's not even going to watch this far into the video.
He's not. No way is he going to watch it. But I think he's coming out and he's aiming for you. He wants to see you in the championship,
For me.
and yeah, I think that would be his
That's really
ultimate
nice
goal.
of him to want to see me in the championship.
So, that's where I think he's going to go. We'll see if he meets you there, me there. Probably not me. My team's going to be a little rough, I think.
Right, you're in my division.
Yeah.
We have a whole other video to get to there.
But I think that's about it for Adam's team. You have anything else you want to talk about?
His running backs fell in much worse situations. Kenyon Drake leaving the Cardinals. He's with the Raiders now, cutting into a Josh Jacobs situation. And he doesn't figure to be much more than a change of pace back or an injury fill-in. So his value dropped off a ton. Melvin Gordon III seems to be on his way out with the Broncos. They drafted a new running back, Javonte Williams, who seems to be getting a lot of hype. Although I think that Gordon's going to be a little bit undervalued because of that rookie hype, and it's still going to be kind of a steady Eddie running back through the season. But yeah, definitely not players to be worth keeping there.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think there's anyone there to even consider. Maybe a late round pick to roster and see what happens, but none that I'm real excited about. So that's it for me. You?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us if you're still watching, and see you next time.
Loser! You're a loser! Are you feeling sorry for yourself? Well, you should be, because you are dirt! You make me sick, you big baby!